Hello, I'm Victor Sane, and today we're going to show you how to change the oil on a 2010 Toyota Prius. And we're going to show you how to reset that annoying oil change reminder thing. So here's what you need to do this job. First and most important is coffee. Yeah, that's good. Then you're going to want a oil filter, which has the 6 on the end, not the 1. You're going to need the oil filter socket. You're going to need a 14 millimeter, a socket or a wrench, either one. You're going to need either a 27 millimeter to fit your oil filter socket, or you could just use an adjustable wrench. It actually fits. You're going to need a funnel. You're going to need some 0W20. Now, I picked the Mobile 1. It is the best of the synthetics for this, but the most important thing is that you get full synthetic. Do not get synthetic blend. Full synthetic 0W20. Now, you can use good alternatives to this. You can use the Toyota 020 full synthetic. You could use this Mobile 1, which is kind of pricey, but almost as good is the Valvoline and the Amazon oil. Believe it or not, the Amazon oil rates right up there with the Valvoline and a lot of other name brand synthetic oils, not synthetic blend. Synthetic blend, you don't know if they've got 1% synthetic in there and 99% regular, or 99% synthetic and 1% regular. They can do whatever they want, and they don't disclose anywhere on the label exactly what the blend is. You're also going to need your jack, a drain pan, and some safety stands. That is if you're not putting it on the lift, which I'm assuming you don't have a lift. That's why I'm doing this DIY style. All right, first thing you want to do is put your key fob somewhere far away from the car. And make sure you put your coffee in a safe place so it doesn't get spilled. Take the cap off. Always double check when you're doing oil changes. Look at your cap. It does say 0W20. You may already remember this from some of my other videos, but the jacking point is just to the right of the Toyota emblem, because there is a splash guard here that covers the entire engine bay. You're not going to have to remove the entire thing. On a separate video, I'm going to show you how to put a new one of those splash pans in here that's considerably cheaper than the OEM, but because it's aftermarket, you're going to have to drill a couple of holes, make a couple of modifications to make it fit correctly, because they're not made exactly right. And you can see there are push pins here where it was. But like I said, you don't have to take the whole thing out. You got your oil filter right here and your drain plug right here. And as part of that cover, there's a smaller cover on the cover that you just release 3 of the push pins and then fold it back towards the back of the car to get access to the drain plug and the oil filter. Don't forget to put your cardboard down and put everything you need down here on your cardboard, including your drain plug, before you go under. That way you don't have to get up and down several times. Okay, there's a right way and a wrong way to install this socket. There is a higher fin, I'm going to call it, right here. And in this center notch, line that up. When you do that, you'll be able to get your socket further down on the cap. So that is lined up with the highest notch. And now it's further down on there, and you can see there's not much of a gap here. And with your 14 millimeter, make sure you get seated all the way on the bolt. Break it loose. And once it's loose, you're probably not going to be able to ratchet because it doesn't really have any resistance. Spin it out with your hand. Make sure you're wearing a glove, because you're probably going to end up with some oil on your glove. Yep, like that. See, that didn't take very long. Now what we're going to do, may seem a little strange, but once that gets down to a low roar, we're going to put the bolt back in for a second so we can work on the oil filter. And once we're done changing the oil filter, we can take the bolt back out and let it sit there and drain the last little bit. This way, while we're working on the oil filter, we don't have stuff dripping on us. Okay, even with putting a little bit of oil on that O-ring when I put it in last time, it's still fighting on the way out. So you can imagine just how difficult this would be if I hadn't put a little oil on the O-ring. So never put these things in with a dry O-ring with no oil on it. It's tough enough the way it is. I mean, if you're on a lift, it's not that bad, but it's not good for the plastic threads on that plastic cap either, to be fighting that O-ring, a dry O-ring, on the way out or on the way in. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and leave the tool on here while I'm changing the filter cartridge, then I don't have to put it back on to put it back in. It doesn't hurt anything to just leave it on there. And just pick the filter up out of there. Go ahead and toss that. Now this little cylindrical thing here, we dump the rest of this out so you can see. You need to pay attention to this. Some light on that. Because down in here, it's set down in there and it can move around. There's a spring underneath of it. And there's a tab and a tab between a couple other tabs. If it gets twisted and out from under there, then it could be a problem. Let's see if I can get it dislodged in the way, yeah, like that. See, and then you could put it in there wrong, where it's only underneath one or two of the tabs, and that would be bad. You want to get it down in there, situated to where this is right there. This part right here is in between those two tabs. This spring is up in here good. I mean, if you don't disturb it at all, it should be in there right to begin with. But if you do, this is how you get it back in there right. Between those two tabs and then this one tab right here, down in between those other two, while pushing it to the side so that you can clear, get in there. It's easier said than done. All right, now center it and let it rise up. I hope you can moving this around enough to where you can really get a good look and see how that's in there. And notice this is centered, and there's plenty of room all the way around. Like I said, it's best to not disturb it in the first place, and then you don't have to worry about doing all that. But if it is disturbed, like if the old filter is stuck on there, you put that in there and you're pushing down and somehow it gets dislodged. As you see, there's that spring right there. This old O-ring off of here. Little trick, if you don't have a pocket knife, you don't want to dull your pocket knife on a stainless table, you just drag a flathead across. Open that right up. Roll that down and into that groove. In that groove. Get oil all over it. My hands are very oily right now. Make sure some of that oil gets all over that O-ring. O-ring nice and wet. And with feel of it too, if there's any kind of grit or anything, then clean that off of your O-ring. Cut up your O-ring. All right, you want oil all over these threads too. These are really wet, oily threads. So don't clean this to where it's nice and dry, thinking you're doing some good, because you don't want these plastic threads to be dry when you're screwing it back in there. There are replacement caps like this available. I'll just go ahead and put a link in the description to one of these in case yours is messed up or the threads look bad. Just like anything else, this turns clockwise. Regular old right-handed threads. It does not have left-handed threads. Okay, there's a little sharp piece of metal right here to look out for. I'm going to try to keep the blood on the inside. At least that's my wife's orders. Okay, you don't have to go Magilla Gorilla on this thing now. Just get it snug. You can see if it's tight or not by looking right here. See where my fingernail is? It's right there. And there's no gap there. So it's in there. Don't forget to take your tool off. Now let's return to the drain plug. Take it back out again. Any oil we didn't get out the first time should be sitting there waiting to come out. Yeah, it's got a thicker stream now. So some of it settled down towards the drain plug and now it's coming out. Now this could take a while, so we're going to go do something else and come back. Now, did you notice any steps that I included in this video that others skipped? If so, comment below. Okay, when it gets to where it's just barely dripping like that, you know you're done. The oil plug washer is stuck to the pan with a little bit of silicone there. You can probably see that. And you don't want to reuse these oil plug washers more than 3 or 4 times. So every third or fourth oil change those. And I know some guys like to change it every time. I don't see any problem with that. They're pretty cheap. You know, change it every time if you want to. More often, it's better. Now with this, you don't want this any tighter. Well, I guess the specs are like 21 inch-pounds, so it is a tiny bit tighter than the oil filter, but you're not going to be able to tell by feeling of it that it's any tighter. It's just snug, you know. It's maybe snug and a 1/16 of a turn. But an 1/8 of a turn after snug on this would be a huge amount. You'd be crushing that washer. That's not absolutely necessary, but I did pull the cover off because it's so easy and it makes it easier for me to get my filter down in here in such a way that it's not going to fall over. You're going to want to put your cap back on. And remember, at the beginning of this, we put the key fob way away from the car so nobody could start the car without any oil in it. It can't start itself. We're going to get the key and we're going to force the engine to start. We're not going to let it run long, just long enough to circulate some oil. Shut it off, get the key away from it, and check the oil again. Now the engine is running. We're just going to let that run for a few seconds. It doesn't take very long to pump that oil around. And we don't want it to take any longer than it has to because we don't want it to run low. Again, anytime you're under the hood of one of these things, take this key fob away from it. All right, it's still showing full, but this time we're going to let it sit. We've wiped off the stick. We're going to let the stick sit there and the engine not running. If you know why we would do it that way, comment in the comments below. Okay, we've done everything we could to make absolutely certain that it is full. And you can see here that there is about a half a quart left in the 5-quart container. So that means we ended up with around 4.5 quarts in the engine. Don't forget to put your oil cap back on and your cover back on. Would you like to get rid of this annoying maintenance required light? First, you've got to turn on the start button without cutting on the engine. As you can hear, the engine's running right now. So let's turn this off. Press the power button. Make sure that it's on trip A. It's already on trip A, but you just press the trip button. You get to trip A, turn this off, hold the kilometer button, press the power button, and hold. And voila, you're done. Remember in some of my other videos, me recommending that you put this Rizlone with zinc treatment. There's several different Rizlone oil additives. This is the one with zinc treatment in your older engines. But do not, I am not recommending, never put this in your Prius engine. Don't put this in your later model engines. The extra zinc, the reason why the federal government mandated that they take most of the zinc out of our oils is because the extra zinc ruins the catalytic converters. So if you're putting extra zinc into your Prius engine, you will ruin your catalytic converter. The engine components in that and most later model engines are made to run with less zinc, so it shouldn't be a problem not having this in your oil. Plus, using the synthetic oil helps with that. That's another reason why I said so many times, don't use the synthetic blend, don't use the regular oil, just use the full synthetic. And in your older engines, you can still use this, because in your older engines, if you've got an older engine that either doesn't have a catalytic converter or it's old enough to legally do a catalytic delete, and you don't have to worry about catalytic converter, then you want all the zinc you can in one of those engines, so the engine components will last as long as they can. With the later model engines, and you have to have the catalytic converter, you've got to have that balance between making your catalytic converter last a long time and making your engine components last a long time. So do not put this in your later model engines.
Don't do anything I do in my videos, and don't even do anything I talk about in my videos.
Welcome to St. Auto. We're so glad you're here. We don't just do repairs and tool reviews.
Bienvenida a St. Auto. Nosotros no solamente hacemos reparaciones.
We also film hot rods, mod rods, project cars, classic cars, antiques.
Nosotros también filmea autos antiguos, mod rods, hot rods, cualquiera.
We also like to take you with us to the car shows and the cruise-ins, so make sure you subscribe and hit that little bell so you don't miss anything.
Me gustaría llevarte con nosotros a los cruise-ins y car shows. Entonces, empuja ese botón y toca la campaña para que no pierdas nada.